Real quick, before we continue with the episode, I want to let you know that if you're a creative person who wants to share your creative gift or whatever you're passionate about with other people and create an online community, a podcast is an amazing way to do it. And you can start a podcast today with Anchor by Spotify. It's such an easy way to make a podcast. Trust me. I'm not a tech person and I did it. So if I can do it, honey, you can too, okay? Anchor has tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. And you can host on Anchor and it will distribute your podcast to platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. So you don't have to worry about, uploading your podcast to all these different sites. And it's everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. And it's 100% free. So there you go. Let's go. Start your podcast, create your online community, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. All right, without further ado, let's continue. Welcome to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. My name is Estelle F. Berry and I'm your host. I'm so glad that you're here. This show is all about staying creative in medical school or a grad program or professional program of any kind. You are welcome here. So let's get creative and let's get into this episode. All right. Hey, Ezzy.
Hello.
Ohaya. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good today. How about you?
I'm good. Thank you. So thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm really excited because you are one of the kindest, funniest, most you just light up the room and you have a really good personality. So I'm glad that we got to chat and I'm glad that we're friends. And yeah, everyone that I know who knows you speaks so highly of you. So yeah, you're just a great person. So I'm glad that you're on here. And when I first reached out to you, it was because you posted about Men's Health Month being in November. And I was like, oh, that's so cool to talk about self-care, especially in medical school and to talk about mental health and stuff like that, emotional health. So I think we could have a good conversation about that today.
Absolutely.
But let's start with your journey to medical school. How did you get here? What brought you to the medical field? And yeah, tell us more about who you are basically and how that led you to medical school.
Definitely. Well, thank you again for having me. I'm so excited to be here and be able to talk about my story. So yeah, my kind of journey to med school is not the traditional one. Coming from a Nigerian background, most people think that I was forced into going to medical school and either that or becoming a doctor or becoming a lawyer or engineer or something. But I actually was interested in medicine starting in my undergrad. I went to Colorado State University as a bio major. And as I got into my junior year, I was doing more human biology rather than plant and zoology. So that's where I started getting interested into how the human body works, how the human body heals and changes and reproduces and things of that aspect. So from there, I got involved with the internship in my hometown of Denver through the University of Colorado School of Medicine. So it's called UPP. So that was just an undergraduate pre-health program. So people that are looking into going into not only the medical field, but dentistry, any other fields of medicine and healthcare. So people in undergrad had a cohort of about 30 people. And so from there, I was doing shadowing opportunities, collaborating with fellow students that are interested in applying to med school, working on letters of recommendation and your personal statement, all that kind of stuff. And then I eventually got in touch with one of the deans at Ross. So she actually came and talked to our cohort. And I never considered going to med school in the Caribbean. But I was like, let me find out more information from this lady, and I kept in touch with her throughout the rest of my junior year and my senior year. Um, and then from there, just checking in. I finally graduated from CSU in August 2020. I was like, let me see if I get into this school. It'll just be the first one. Maybe I'll get in, maybe I won't. And I got in. And I was like, oh, I got it. I honestly didn't expect to get in because I was just like, I was not the traditional student. My GPA wasn't the best at that time, but I think from working with um, and connecting early with that administrative, that admin, um, helped put me in a position of this is what I need to do in order to prepare
Yeah.
for med school and actually am I going to be comfortable going to this med school in particular. So
Right.
that's kind of the story. And here I am, almost what's that? Yeah, about literally a year later.
Wow.
Um, I'm in my second semester now. So
Congrats.
thank you,
That's
thank you.
awesome. Wow. So it was the first one that you applied to and then you got in. And
Yes,
then you're like,
yes.
okay,
So I
that's
kind of
it.
put all my eggs
Perfect.
in one basket.
Well, there you go. I'm glad it worked out for you.
Definitely.
So that's good. So how's the transition been? Because I mean, coming to med school on its own is its own transition, but then also the fact that we're on an island, that's like
Right.
another additional transition. Um, so I mean, especially if you want to talk about self care, if you want to talk about mental health here, like how has the adjustment been now being on the island, being in medical school? How has it been for you?
I would honestly say it's kind of been a little rocky. I obviously coming from Colorado, I come from a very cold or place with very sporadic weather. So coming here, I was just trying to escape the snow. Honestly, I was like, okay, yeah, I can. I'll be
Yeah.
living on an island. I can go to the
Yeah.
beach every 2 minutes and stuff like that. So the adjustment was very good at first, but I think since we're in this new normal of
Yeah.
COVID, I think that really puts a lot of things into something that's not normal
Right.
that we're not used to. But I mean, that's what's good. That's what it's
Right.
gonna be for whoever knows how long. But I would say that affected my or is affecting my kind of mental health in the sense that obviously med school is a lot for you physically, mentally, emotionally, socially. Um, but being able to have some sort of release from med school is what I feel like is kind of difficult now that we are on this island. Of course, it's a privilege to be on this island and coming from the states and everything, or from a different country. But um, yeah, I think just being able to go to the usually back home I would go to like a volleyball gym and
Mm-hmm.
on the weekends, and that would just be my like workout on the weekends, and also just time to interact with some friends as well. But here I can't do that anymore because
Yeah.
there's restrictions on everything. So it's just kind of like I have to find some sort of way to release, but
Right.
I don't necessarily I'm not like a gym rat, but I go to the gym because yeah, you need to work out kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I'm not the type of person that likes staying in the gym. So it's like I need some sort of other physical
Right.
activity to stimulate me. So yeah, I would say that's been kind of difficult because I also feel like when I'm playing a sport and I'm in school, it makes me more focused and
Mm-hmm.
driven to do well.
Yeah.
And so since I don't have that release, it's like, oh, where do I put all of this energy
Right.
into kind of thing?
Something other than school
Yes,
24/7 because like
exactly.
we're like on this bubble. Like we're all focused on this thing, this process all the time and it's like all that anyone talks about understandably, but yeah, like what you're saying, it's so helpful to have something outside of academics, studying, medical school, clinicals, everything, right? It's so helpful to have something outside of that to pour your energy into. And it does make you more focused than when you can go and, okay, now it's time to study, now it's time to focus, because you've released that pent up energy, and now you can like
Yes,
actually
yes,
sit down and focus on what you need to do for that time. So yeah, that's really good. That's a really good point. And I know, I mean, I see you on social media, you're
Mhm.
always like cooking and listening to music and things like that. So like, do you have a creative outlet? And um maybe it's just making things, like making good food. Like what are some ways that you try to stay creative and in that way like take care of yourself as a student?
Definitely, definitely. So yes, definitely cooking and baking is one,
Oh, you
or I guess
bake
that's
too.
two.
Okay. Oh yeah, you
Yes,
made some cookies
yes, I did make
yesterday.
some cookies. I'll have to give you some.
Oh.
So I feel like that's also kind of an outlet for me.
Mm,
Although it's kind of a basic human survival skill, but
right.
um,
But some have it
just
better than others. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Let's not put that, let's put that caveat there.
for
Not
sure,
everyone can cook the
for
same as
sure.
other people. Like, I need some recipes. I
Right.
need
Oh yes, definitely.
I need some of your tips, because,
Yes.
but that's a talent. Like, if you're able to make good food regularly, I would say that's a skill that you like have to hone.
Yes,
But
definitely. Especially being on this island, because it's like I could go to Walmart at like 1 a.m. and be like, oh,
I
okay, yeah, I'm gonna make this and
wish.
that tomorrow. But here, there's limited resources in that aspect, and it's like you won't necessarily get the things that you're familiar to. So I feel like that's what's pushed me to be creative in that aspect, because I have to think each week. I like to meal prep each week so that I can get that out of the way on weekends so that I have food for the rest of the week. Because when I don't have food, then I lose focus and I get hangry, all this stuff.
Right.
So if I have food, I'm just that's one thing that's out of the way. But just being able to put things together and change it up every week and just kind of explore new things through that cooking. I feel like that's also kind of a creative release for me from school. And then I'm also able to share that with people as well. I wish I had more time and energy to like you said, like to be able to give tips or make videos on how I made like this 20-minute meal prep kind of thing, and um, what ingredients like as well as like with the budgeting of how I make my
Yeah.
food as well, because that's a big concern given that everything's kind of expensive or not as priced as familiarly as we are back in the States. So I wish I had time to do that. I used to do that back in undergrad. I would make like TikToks with of how I prep my food and stuff, but yeah, med school hit like a truck. So yeah, I don't necessarily have time to do that, but I hope that's something that as I continue to go on through my journey here, I'm still learning how to manage my time.
Right.
Even though I'm on my second semester and finishing up, I still have 3 more semesters. So being able to, I feel like hopefully I'll be able to
Hmm.
continue to find that balance. Um, and definitely be able to share that with other people for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I love that, like what you said about being able to explore new things through cooking, and then being able to connect with other people as well. Because then I know you share like your food a lot. I've had some of your pancakes at one time. They're really good. So those are just some of the, I feel like some of the coolest things about like creating things is like exploring new things, and then also getting to share that with other people. It helps you connect with other people in a new way, which is always fun. So that's awesome. Switching gears a little bit, I did want to
Mhm.
talk about black male doctors, because
Mhm.
you're talking about like time management, which is
Yeah.
something that I've talked about a lot on this show so far, and like balancing time. It's something that I'm always working on, and I'm always like asking for tips on how to do that because I want to
Yes.
grow too. But I know you're in Black Male Doctors. You're on the e-board, right?
Yes.
You're on the,
Vice president.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, VP.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Put some respect on there. Okay.
For sure.
All right. So you're vice president of Black Male Doctors here at Ross. And so how do you manage like your time with that organization? And then how did you and I guess maybe this is like a second question,
Hmm.
but how did you get into thinking of men's health and like men in healthcare, and like why
Hmm.
is that a passion for you too?
Definitely, definitely. So yes, I think with being a part of Black Male Doctors this semester, um, I feel like I have a kind of a separate community of
Mm-hmm.
like-minded individuals that I was hoping to get while being in med school. I obviously um, my undergrad wasn't as diverse as it could have been, but I did have a very strong community
Mm-hmm.
to connect with. But I didn't expect to have that in med school. And being a part of Black Male Doctors, a lot of people think that, oh, yeah, it's just like if you're obviously fit the categorization of being Black and a male,
Right.
you can, it's only for those people. But we really want to emphasize that our organization is to uplift specifically black male black males that are going into medicine, but also support this idea that we are constantly disadvantaged in um, certain areas and aspects of our life, whether that's in medicine and outside
Mm.
of that, outside of medicine. At the end of the day, even though I'm going to be a doctor, um, society doesn't really care about that outside of me wearing my white coat, you
Mm.
know, kind of thing. So that's why we urge people to understand that if you and we do have a lot of support in that aspect, that
Yeah.
we're just supporting this mission of trying to get more doctors that look like us and
Mm.
be able to create doctors that are not selective with their patients and
Right.
can be able to treat patients of all different backgrounds and um, stories and illnesses and everything. Because when you look at how medicine has been for so many years, uh, black black people usually get the short end of the stick and are test subjects in that aspect and things
Mm.
of that sort. But I won't get into all that
Right.
whole
A lot of
history
history
lesson.
there.
But yeah, I feel like with having this community here, um, it's a lot of people that literally understand what I've going through or have gone through. Because yeah, it's a lot, but it makes it better when somebody actually understands in that aspect, and being able to connect with other organizations as well just helps uplift our community as a whole, and just connect with other people. We did an event, clinical skills event. I think the last week of October,
Mm.
just kind of trying to get people to practice their clinical skills um, on fake patients and everything. So I think that's one major thing, being that this is like the first time we're having in person practice skills and stuff again since COVID happened. So a lot of people haven't been able to practice like using their stethoscope and all these
Right.
tools that they gave us
Mm-hmm.
on an actual person. And it's just, you can't necessarily be a doctor just learning how to practice on a patient through your screen. You have to
Right.
be able to practice that on a real person. And I think just by us doing that event and collaborating with so many different organizations, we really opened that door of confidence for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because like some people were like, "Oh yeah, I've never listened to vowel sounds before," and
Yeah.
they're almost about to start going into their rotations.
Right.
So it's like that's just being able to kind of ignite that fire of like, yeah, this is something that you should kind of be able to do with the back of your like no on the back of your hand,
Mm-hmm.
and just be able to make people more confident in practicing those skills. Because it's different when you're in the classroom and just having that confined space and everybody's looking at you and judging you,
Right.
but just being able to have that space. So um, I think just the organization of Black Male Doctors just trying to be able to advocate for everyone
Mm-hmm.
and advocate for ourselves, and just kind of enlighten people about our community and the struggles that we have to face inside of school and outside of school.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so cool. And I love that you guys did that. I was there and it was very helpful. I like that you guys are creating opportunities for people to learn and apply what they're learning in class, like in actual cases, or as
Definitely.
real as you can make it, obviously. But
Yes.
yes. And you were my test subject.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
remember bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was really helpful. And I like what you said there at the end about how you're helping people understand what you go through, and like and to see people not for their color or their background per se, but to treat people like people, and when it comes to
Exactly.
like clinical work and stuff like that. So what are some of the struggles that Black men go through when it comes to mental health, specifically when it comes to emotional health and self-care, like from your perspective, because it is Men's Health Month. We're wrapping
Yes.
up November all of a sudden. I don't know where November went,
Oh
but
yeah, tomorrow's
it's
December. It's
right,
crazy.
basically.
Yeah.
So wrapping up November, but it's still Men's Health Month. So we're gonna stick with that theme. Like, to you, what are some of the struggles that men face when it comes to specifically mental health and
Mhm.
emotional health? Because I know that's a really big topic for medical students. So what do you think
Definitely.
that looks like?
Definitely. In terms of my perspective, some of the things that just kind of off my head kind of come to mind. Being a Black male,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of stigma of like going to the doctor and getting help from, I think the term is probably like white coat syndrome or something. Or
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, in that aspect, a lot of Black male people, Black males, a lot of Black males have fears of going to the doctor because it's like, oh, am I going to be treated well? I don't want to look less of a man. That idea kind of comes up a lot. I don't necessarily understand what's going on, and then obviously going back to the whole history of things that have happened to Black men in medicine and Black women, especially in medicine. So I would say that's one thing, and then also, as I was saying earlier, like in our society, even though like I'm eventually gonna have doctor in front of my name, I can still be treated as nothing, you know.
Mm.
I can still be disrespected and discriminated against and face that racism on a day-to-day basis just because of the color of my skin and just because of how I look. And so that's another thing, like in terms of like going into um like a year from, yeah, about a year from now, I'm starting to get ready to do rotations and whatnot, getting placement and all of that. I have to wonder, oh, are they gonna see me for my credentials, or are they gonna see me for how I look, um, in terms of my application and stuff? And I have to hope that they see me because of my credentials. Um, so in that aspect and in that regard, I feel like I have to work like twice or to 10 times as hard so I
Mm.
look just as good as my other counterparts. And so that's kind of another stressor,
Right.
and some sort of pressure to put upon myself, as I go through med school, because I feel like I have to work way harder, even though, yeah, everybody has to work hard in med school, but you have to work twice as hard to kind of get the same respect or same
Mm.
um, consequences as my counterparts. And with that, with mental health, there's a lot of things that just continue to go on in our society, whether it's police brutality or the racism and privileges and stuff. That's just something every day I have to think about, and not everybody has to wake up and think about those kind of things
Mm.
while you're going to med school. That's something that I have to think about. And I go to med school and then I come home and I'm still living in that reality. It's not something that I can escape. So I would say it affects your mental health in that aspect, because I have to constantly think about how much my life is worth and whether it's worth as much as other people,
Mm.
whether I have a doctor in front of my name or not. So yeah, mental health. That's why I'm hoping for this month. Um, Being a part of Black Male Doctors, one thing that I really have been appreciating is that like my fellow board members will just reach out and say like, "Hey, like how is everybody doing?" Just kind of that type of check in.
Yeah.
Um, because I think we tend to go about our days thinking that we're just all right or we're doing fine, but we need to check in on each other. We need to make sure everybody's good. Whether you're in that organization or not, just check in with your fellow peers, your students, because not everybody's doing as okay as they say they are. Everybody's going through things back home. Like the world is constantly
Yeah.
throwing things at us that you can't imagine, and people are just hiding that behind their mask and everything. So I think that's one big thing. Checking in on your friends, um, being able to find spaces where you can release, um, as well as just being able to connect with other students from time to time and just be able to open up about how you feel and how you're doing mentally and physically, emotionally. Because when you don't, you just bottle that up, and one day it's just gonna kind of explode, and
Yeah.
that's not healthy. So, especially in regards to Men's Health Month, I think that it's important for us to be able to discuss those things openly without feeling like we're gonna be judged for it.
Yeah. That's a really
Yeah.
good point. And sometimes it's like you people like ask like, "Oh, how are you?" all the time. But
Right.
like when someone asks you like genuinely like, "Oh, how
Hmm.
are you really doing?" and
Yeah.
then you might not even have stopped to think about how you're doing until someone actually asks you and like gets you to open up. And it's like that's why it's so important, like what you're saying, to actually like, reach out and genuinely ask people how they're doing. Especially like as we're getting closer to like the holidays, a lot of people have a lot of baggage related to the holidays, and we're not even going home for Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
Like, so that's another component of people's mental and emotional health right now that they might be dealing with, as we're prepping for exams. So it's like
Hmm.
right now
Right.
especially is a really important time to be thinking about self-care, thinking about mental health. How are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of other people around us? And like reaching out to other people around us. So thank you for highlighting that. And
Yes,
I was gonna
definitely.
ask you, I
Hmm.
mean, you kind of already answered the question, but like what, because I always ask this of everyone, like if you had one piece of advice for people who are listening in this podcast, it's kind of like directed towards medical students, but I
Hmm.
also welcome like any PhD students, like grad students I know that listen to this, college students who are also, busy in a busy time of their lives. What advice would you have for them when it comes to, especially if they have a creative outlet and they're trying to like give that time and take care of their mental health in that way? Like, what's some advice that you could give them when it comes to taking care of themselves,
Hmm.
mental health and emotional health and things like that
Right.
as students?
Definitely.
Hmm.
Definitely. I would say, um, for me, sometimes I feel like I don't deserve, like, let's say, like sometimes I feel like I don't deserve like a reward after finishing an exam or something like that. But um, I think it's always important to take that mental break after you take an exam, because I mean, although it's an exam, it's like a mental fight for your brain. It's still kind of, it's physical work that you're doing, and it's strenuous at the end of the day. And with that, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed to be able to have a great support system from my family
Hmm.
and friends back home. Yeah, I miss my friends every day, and although I'm not able to talk to them every single day, like my on my Snapchat memories will pop up, and it's us
I
like
love that.
chilling at Sonic or something, or doing something like that, and I send it to them. It's just like being able to reconnect in those memories in that moment for that time. So I would say being able to either have a great support system or develop one
Mm-hmm.
here. Not everyone is fortunate enough to have a support system like that, but I would say that's a very good tactic to have. I know like with me, I did MERP before starting med school, and right before MERP, I just had graduated from undergrad. So I kind of like finished college, had like 2 months, 2 to 3 months of getting of my like application cycle. I was accepted, and then I decided to do MERP because I didn't take the MCAT actually. So I did MERP, and that kind of was the
Yeah.
substitute for preparation.
What does MERP stand for again?
Um, Medical Education Readiness
Program.
Program.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't have any type of pre matriculation before Ross. So I figured
Oh,
doing MERP would help me prepare for the type of stuff I was gonna face in med school. So for me, I feel like I've been in med school for a year now, and so
basically.
so I'm kind of hitting a wall for the holidays, being able to go home and just connect with my family again and connect with my friends. I feel like that'll give me the reset that I need to start my next semester out even stronger. Because yeah, I feel like with these weeks coming close to final exams and everything, I'm hitting kind of a mental block, and it's like it's very sluggish and not my. I don't feel at my fullest capacity in terms of studying and everything. So I think having my support system going back will be kind of that reset button I need to start even stronger next semester. So that's another tactic that I um, feel like is important for all med students.
Yeah.
And I would say, hmm, I would say last, I don't really know how to phrase it, but I think just being able to explore new things in med school is important, whether that's through food, whether that's through hobbies, sports and exercise and physical activities, um, being able to explore whether you like this field of medicine or
Mm-hmm.
whether maybe you don't like that field of medicine. I think we always try to find what we like, but
Yeah.
it's also important to find out what you don't like so you can use that to navigate what you should put your focuses into as well. So I think, yeah, I would say, yeah, being open to exploring
Yeah.
in med school as well.
I love that. That's really good advice. And you're definitely not alone when it comes to feeling sluggish. And like the end of this semester, you're not alone. Trust me. Like
Right.
it's a challenge, but
Mhm.
like you said, like taking mental breaks helps a lot. Connecting with your support system, even virtually right now until we're able to get back
Right.
home. I can't wait. I'm just like
Right.
you. Like I'm looking forward to the holidays for sure. And then
Mhm.
yeah, I like what you said about exploring new things as well. That's a really good point. Like just being open to new adventures, to new challenges, things that you don't like what you said about
Right.
different specialties that you might not like being open to opportunities to explore them and things like that. So oh, that's really
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing.
Of course. Of
Is
course.
there anything else you wanted to add? I think we're all set. But if you want to say anything else before we close, you can.
No. Well, yes.
That's
um,
okay.
I think yeah, just like um, kind of again as a word of advice, I think
Hmm.
we all know med school's hard. And I feel like it's always this personal battle between yourself of, oh, can I actually do this? Can I actually be a doctor? Um, am I adequate enough? That question, like,
Hmm.
always comes. At least for me, that question always comes up for me. But I think the most important thing is to remember your purpose and remember your drive for even being in being in place to be in med school right now, what made you want to go to med school? I'm sure everybody gets that question in your medical interview. I feel like being able to revisit that from time to time will give you that kind of that kickstart of this is why I'm here and this is why I deserve to be here. Um, yeah, because that mental battle with yourself of, am I good enough to be a doctor? Am I going to be a doctor? Am I going to make it? Um, you're your you're your biggest competition at the end of the day, and everyone's journey to and throughout med school is different. And I think we tend to compare ourselves to others when we just need to compare ourselves to our former selves. So that's, yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think
Yeah.
that's important.
That's a really, really good piece of advice and
Mhm.
encouragement. And I hope everyone enjoyed hearing this conversation. I enjoyed this chat with you. So thank you. Thank you for all that advice, all of your, thank you for sharing about your background and everything. It's been very generous of you to spend this time. I know you could literally be studying like I could be studying, but it's very generous of you to spend this time because you never know how it can bless someone else. So thank you for blessing me and blessing
Absolutely.
everyone else who's listening. Everyone, you should all go follow Ezzy on Instagram because he's very entertaining and he will definitely encourage you throughout the week and make you laugh at least once throughout the week.
Thank you. I appreciate
So,
that.
I mean, if you want to share your Instagram handle, you can. It's up to you, but
I
you
don't
don't
even
have to.
I don't remember how I spelled it. I think it is AFRIKVNGEZI. So it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know how to explain my Instagram name, but
African
that's
Jeezy.
it's supposed to be like African Ezzy, but it's supposed to be like African King Ezzy.
Oh
But I was trying to put it
yes.
together, but I think it looked better in my head. And then I changed it. I was like,
It's okay. I can put it in the show notes.
But here we are.
Yeah, I can put it in the show notes.
Okay,
So
for sure.
everyone can find you if they want to follow you, if they want to keep up with your life.
For sure.
But thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Creatively by Estelle. I hope you feel encouraged by today's episode as you start this week. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to just share this episode with a friend if you liked it, or with someone who you think this could be encouraging to. It would really help this show. Also, if you really loved this episode, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating this show, it would really help us reach more people through this show and grow our Creatively community. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.